and welcome back to the Noise Filter podcast. This week we have Chris Morgan. Hello, Chris. How are you doing? You all right?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So I understand you do a few podcasts. Could you tell us a little bit about them, please?
Yeah, we've got. I've got three podcasts that I currently work on. Two of them I'm a host on, and one of them my friend came to me and was looking for advice. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll edit and help produce it." So the first one is a movie podcast because those are the most unique things in the world.
Yeah.
It's called B Movie Deathmatch. We like to play a game with movies. So some friends and I watch like a trailer for a movie. Hopefully one that we haven't seen. If it's one we've seen, we try to throw it out because we make predictions based upon the trailer.
Okay.
And play a little game. We record our predictions and what we think of the trailer and what we think is going to happen. So we make three predictions and then we have a multiplier. The predictions are like what we think is going to happen in the movie. The multiplier I like to describe as what we want to happen in the movie, just something that's something way out there. Like, I don't know, space vampires are going to come down and kill everyone at the very last second. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then we watch the movie and we score the predictions. It's a lot of fun. It's a strange podcast though.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it goes off the rails a lot. And then there's so that's B Movie Deathmatch. Then there's Kinkcast, which that one is like a sexual fetish podcast.
Yeah.
We research a different fetish like every week to talk about because. Mostly because I was I was trying to find some podcasts about that, and I was listening to a lot of them. They're kind of boring. So I wanted to do something that was more fun, actually got in depth about the stuff, but, had fun with the topic.
Yeah.
So we just recorded one last night, which was about Sleeping Beauty or somnophilia. Just very weird one, and probably the closest thing that we've touched on that is close to rape.
Right.
That one was oh, this is really dark. We don't know how we can have fun with this one at all. But then and then the one that I just produced on is Festicast, which is about the festival and EDM community, and that one's a lot of fun. They've got a new DJ every week that they interview, and Festicast, they interview electronic dance music DJs and have a lot of fun. They play some games there too.
Excellent.
And, just try to get into their mind and into their process. I've guest hosted on one episode, and I felt kind of bad because I had a little bit to drink that night, and it's kind of took over the hosting duties for that episode, and I was immediately like, hey, I understand if you guys don't want to invite me back because I kind of monopolized the questions. But
that sounds cool. How did you kind of fall into those? I suppose all of them differently.
Well, I always wanted to do a podcast, or I wanted to do something creative. I've been listening to podcasts since high school, which is 10 years now.
Yeah.
So it's been they've been a huge part of my life, and I originally started college as a film major because I just wanted to do something creative. Eventually, the whole thing got to oh, you should do something sensible. So I did something sensible and changed to international business, which was fun, but the jobs aren't. The jobs are very boring. So I was I have to do something that is not mind-numbingly just oh, drone, go to the office every single day, and just it was so bad. But I ran into how it started is I ran into an old friend of mine, Tommy, who came up with the concept for B Movie Deathmatch, and he would always tell me hey, we should or he's I got this idea for a podcast or this YouTube series that I want to do, to explain the concept that I just described. I was well, let's record it next week. And he was next week? It was yeah, let's do it, and let's just do it. Why if you want to do it,
yeah,
let's do it. Let's not wait to do it. So I kind of forced him into actually
committing
forward.
To it. Yeah.
Because I was that's why one of the things I've always told people if you want to do something, just do it. And I've always had that problem myself too, where it's like I've always wanted to do a podcast, but unless you have someone else there to, or I've always had the problem that unless I have someone else to, you know,
drive it or like kind of move it
not,
on.
Not drive it, but like, hold me to something where it's like, oh, I'm responsible for someone else too.
Yeah.
So if it's just me being responsible for me, I'll be like, oh, I'll be lazy and, put off on that for the next week. But if I'm like feel responsible to someone else, I'll be like, yeah, let's do this every single week. So we kind of like pushed each other to do it. I kind of pushed him to get started, and he kind of pushes me back to keep doing it. I think I don't want to do it. I love doing it.
I think that's the best way, isn't it? You need to find some people that are like at your level of engagement, and then kind of just encourage each other to the point where you actually achieve it and get it going. It's very easy to talk about doing things, isn't it?
The hardest thing is to start doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think watching like Night Attack and all those types of things, like or like After things, a lot of that is just that, isn't it? It's like, it's easy to sort of get the plan in place, but it's the going from 0 to 1, starting, even if it's bad, have a safe place to do it when it doesn't matter, and just kind of get on and get it started. That's very much the ethos behind this podcast as well. Just get it going, and then sort of go from there.
What's the field of dreams? If you build it, they will come.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was what I put in my Diamond Time submission. You have a team of people that you work with. Is that the case on all of them? Is there like a sort of a team of people behind everything, or is it more just on your own?
Most of the editing and everything is down to me because like I said, I was a film major originally, so. Even back in high school, I was taking like broadcasts and stuff. So back before I started listening to podcasts, I was like editing like radio shows and shit in high school.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't know if you can cuss on this.
No, it's fine. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I do most of like the editing and the behind the scenes work. I did like put into place like, hey, we have these 3 shows. I want someone to be like the creative head of each show. I want like a showrunner, essentially, like someone whose vision we're trying to create. Like, I don't mind like giving advice here and there, but I don't want to be like the one going like to FestiCast, which isn't my show. I just like help edit and give advice about it. I don't want to go in and be like, hey, you guys need to stop doing this and you guys need to start doing this. It's like I want to go and be like, what is your vision and how can I help that out? So Tommy and I are kind of like co-creative heads for B-Movie Deathmatch, which there's a lot of butting heads there because we have issues about how we want the show to go. Mostly because I'm really optimistic about movies, so I'm like, yeah, that wasn't too bad of a movie. I kind of liked that. And then he's like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. That's been your review of every movie we've ever watched. but yeah, so then there's for Kinkcast, I put my friend Dana. She's a English doctorate. I asked her if she wanted to be like the creative head because she seemed to be like the most, she was putting the most work into it. So I was like, if you're putting the most work, then it should be your show, something that you guide and move forward.
It's quite interesting to like. I have in the band I play in. I'm the singer, and we have a guy who's basically like our creative MD, who just is responsible for like almost all of the band direction, and like that definitely seems to work quite well. And the moments we all kind of get a vote, it kind of all slows down and becomes a bit of a grind, and it's like quite hard to kind of move forwards. It's quite interesting how these like sort of infrastructures work in social settings and especially in like creative settings as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I kind of wanted to like. Sometimes when like you like leave everything up to vote, there'll be like backroom dealings kind of things going on where it's like, hey man, I know you don't want this to happen, but don't you want his stuff not to happen more? so you should side with me. And I'm like, let's just put one person in charge.
Yeah.
We can have an open discussion about what we all want, but ultimately, let's make this a dictatorship for this one thing. But yeah, I just was like, let's have someone who has a final say, not
Yeah.
when we leave it up to democracy too much, at least for like small creative projects that I've had, it kind of devolves to arguing about which direction we all want it to go.
Yeah,
So.
it's very difficult to find that middle ground, isn't it, and please everybody.
Yeah.
So on like let's have a little chat about the Kinkcast. So how do you sort of pick what? I suppose you've done a lot, haven't you? I've saw like, was it like 100 and something on your? Am I imagining it on your?
Yeah, Kinkcast is I think we released episode 15 last night.
Oh, 15. Okay, sorry, apologies. So what leads you to follow those what topics? What kind of decides where you go? Is that just whatever you fancy, or is there?
Well, yeah, that's kind of like just a brainstorming session where we all just throw out ideas, because basically, if you can name something, there's a fetish for it.
Yeah.
Like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. I'm sure there's a whole fetish community around just the TARDIS.
TARDISing.
And that's something like that. It's probably got some like Latin term like tardisiophilia or something. So, but you could just like throw any word out, and there's a fetish for it. So we usually just do brainstorming sessions, and then we usually try to pick 5 or 10 ahead. And what we do is we try to do like serious and then silly.
Yeah.
We swapped Sleeping Beauty with clowns, because clowns we happen to be recording on a Halloween night, or Sleeping Beauty we would have been recording on Halloween night, and we were like, oh, let's swap it with clowns, because clowns are a little creepy. And it ends up that we're having like 3 in a row that are just like, oh, these are kind of rough to get through, because Sleeping Beauty in and of itself is like somnophilia is having sex with someone who has no agency.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty rapey.
And we were like, oh, because we usually try to like bring up like pop culture references to the fetish, and we were like, so we got Bill Cosby and a bunch of famous rapists. Oh, okay, well, this isn't great.
We keep cutting out, don't we? We keep like having these like Skype pickups. It sounds amazing. Are there any that I suppose Sleeping Beauty that just are just so offensive to you that you just can't, you have nothing, you can't. Is it supposed to be a sort of funny podcast?
It is funny.
Yeah.
We like I said, we try to like have fun with the topics, and it is not, we do not like kink shame at all. Like, it's not like, hey, if you like this, you're a freak.
Yeah.
It's like, we're all freaks and we all like weird things. So sex inherently is kind of gross and weird. So,
yeah.
You know, let's just have fun with it. Some of them, some of us disagree that we should ever touch. And I'm like, cause we do try to rate the fetish at the end of every episode. It's a FDI, or what we call the Fetish Danger Index, which is how negatively could it like affect your life. A 5 is something, essentially we rate it along the lines of SSC, I think is what it's called, safe, sane, and consensual.
Yeah.
So, you know, it has to be a safe fetish, sane, and consensual. Obviously, what we did somnophilia last night, there's no consent. Like,
no,
you can't give immediate consent. It is at best delayed consent.
Yeah. Could it be something that you pre-arrange with somebody? I don't really understand what it is, but is it something that you could say tonight while you're asleep? I'm assuming it's just having sex with sleeping people.
Yeah.
Tonight while you're asleep, is it cool if I have some sleep sex with you? And then if they're like, yeah, then that's okay. But
and
if not, it's rape.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talked about, where it's like, okay, when in a couple, you could talk about this and be like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's still the problem that consent, that is like delayed consent. Like,
yeah.
Where if she did wake up and want that to, like, the person who it was occurring to still has no agency in that moment to say yes or no.
No.
So even though they've previously said yes, it's like they've tried to like argue with like marriage and stuff. Like there's no rape within marriage supposedly because you've consented to being married to that person. That's not true.
Yeah.
Like you should be getting consent every single time.
Yeah.
Which is what we talk about, which is the danger of that, where it's like, okay, yes, there is consent, but it, by the nature of, unless you're completely simulating it, where someone is just pretending to be asleep, it is always delayed consent. It's not something that happens at the moment. But back to your question about like stuff that we might not want to touch on, like we have talked about a few specific fetishes, not fetishes, but you know, like talking about doing like pedophilia and that kind of thing, which is obviously a what we would give a 5 on the fetish danger index, because that is in no way consensual at all. It's not sane, and it is not safe. So that is we've talked about doing that kind of thing, and we kind of want to hold off on doing those for later, just to, you know, have a firmer ground before we, you know, step into like, okay, well, this is going to be the darkest episode we've ever touched on.
Yeah. It's a dark comedy concept, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. It's
like we did autoerotic asphyxiation, which we gave a like 4.5 because it is like, or not autoerotic, just erotic asphyxiation, just because it is like one of the most dangerous things. Like every study that's ever been done about it, everyone who like talks about doing it is like, there is no real way to do it safely. Like you can do it more safe, but you can't do it safe.
No.
So it was like that one's like one of the most common ones too. Like a lot of people like getting choked during sex.
Yeah.
It is something that can be very dangerous, especially if you are not paying attention because you're, you know, getting into it.
Yeah, I bet the statistics for that for death are quite high, aren't they? I suspect that's one that goes wrong quite easily.
It could go wrong quite easily, especially our autoerotic asphyxiation. We gave that one a flat out 5 because that one is, the statistics for death on that are really high.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just look around. Multiple celebrities have killed themselves doing it.
Yeah.
Pop culture references are off the charts on people killing themselves doing that. But yeah, there's no. The problem with erotic asphyxiation is that a lot of like BDSM relies on safe words, and erotic asphyxiation by its nature, you can't speak because you're being choked.
Yeah.
So at best you have like a safe like sign, like a pat out.
Yeah.
But even that, sometimes you might not be able to pick up on that because you're like, oh, are they just really like, are they grabbing me real hard because they're into it, or are they grabbing me real hard because they're choking to death and need me to get off? Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's almost like an unplumbable depth, isn't it? It's a fascinating topic. I suspect everyone has a different position on it, and it's incredibly a personal journey, isn't it, for everybody?
Oh yeah.
Are there any that sort of surprised you, or is there any that you find? I probably, I don't know. I can think of some, but I probably would be surprised at the amount of things. And like you said, you know, for every single thought that goes through your head, there's probably a kink for it, isn't there? Almost.
Oh yes, like you can just, if you randomly point in the back of your room, you'll point at something that someone's like, oh yeah, that turns me on.
Yeah. I fuck that slipper or.
Yeah, no, slippers that's all I'm about. Our very first episode, but our very first episode was like foot fetish.
Yeah.
Which is actually different than shoe fetish, which was one of the strange things where I was like, okay, there are people that are into feet but are not into shoes, and there are people that are into shoes that are not into feet, and then there are people that are into both.
Yeah.
And one of the strangest thing, not the strangest thing, the thing that always surprised me about every single fetish is how common it is. Like stuff that we're like, oh, no one's gonna be into this. This is like something that's way out there. I mean, clowns kind of were that way, where I was like, most people see clowns as terrifying. Like there's no way. And then you just like look it up, and it's like thousands of YouTube videos of like people dressed as clowns, like sucking on balloons, like the, you know, like balloon animals and that kind of thing. And I'm just like, I was like, every single time I'm surprised at how big the community is. Like, there's always a huge community around it. They're always like super supportive of each other, uh, except for furries.
Yeah.
Furries, which is one of the biggest communities. There's a lot of like self-hate in that community,
What
which is
what's furries? Is that just people dressing up in furry outfits, or?
it. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
It's more than that. There's different like levels of furrydom. There's people that are attracted to people in the furry costumes, but they never dress up themselves and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like people who just like looking at the pictures, and the furry community we should like eventually revisit because that's one of like the biggest most in-depth and researched communities. But from what I was watching, like I was like doing research about it, and there was surprisingly like I said, most of the communities we've looked at are very like supportive of each other, and they're all like, you do you. A lot of the furry community was filled with like seemed to be filled with like a lot of self-hate where uh, furries that were making fun of other furries for being furries, and that was something I found a little weird. But that's like the outliers of the community, though. Most of the community is very supportive of each other, but I still found it like weird that a lot of them were like very self-deprecating and that kind of thing, where it's like, oh yeah, these fucking furry people, like all they want to do is like bone other furries, and it's like, dude, your YouTube persona is that you're a furry, and then you make fun of other furries. It is weird. Also, furries is one of the most misrepresented of media because they're always represented in the media as freaks, which is not true. They're, for the most part, normal people.
Yeah. I think that for everybody that is considered a freak, there are probably just as many normal people that do all of these strange things or all these things, and it's. I don't think it really matters as long as you're not doing something that's like endangering somebody else or making somebody uncomfortable against their will, or any of that sort of stuff. I don't really see the problem with any of it.
Yeah,
I don't really have any. Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? People get off on all kinds of strange things, and strange. I use that in the wrong term. People get off on all kinds of things, and they may be perceived as strange to other people. But at the end of the day, what teases one is someone else's medicine, isn't it? So it's a wonderful thing, the world, isn't it? There's an interesting selection of people doing all kinds of interesting things. Is there of those communities that you've sort of talked about? What are your experiences with those? Have you, because of doing this podcast, have you got like a community of people that sort of follow your shows, or?
Yeah, we've got a few listeners. We've got a few a lot of local, mostly just because we tell our friends and then they tell their friends, and that's how it starts spreading. So we've got like local sponsors and like a lot of local listeners, and I'm hoping it continues to expand. But yeah, it's a lot of because I live in Denton, Texas. If you don't know anything about Denton, Texas, it's known for being weird.
Right.
It's like Little Austin, essentially, where Austin is weird and Denton is like a concentration of weird.
Right.
Like up in North Dallas, people were like, "Hey, let's make Austin, except be stranger about it." And so I like to try to take back the term weird. I don't like that it's a negative term.
No.
We're all weird.
Yeah.
We've all got something weird about us. Like we should celebrate it. We should revel in it. But got a lot of positive feedback, especially a lot of people talking to us about hey, most of the sex podcasts that I've heard are they're kind of sex shamey. They make fun of furries and that kind of thing. And it's we play games and have fun and make a little bit of fun, but it's not. We always start off with a disclaimer: we're not sex shaming. We appreciate that what you guys like. That's why we wanted to start this. We wanted to learn more about the different sex communities, and so a lot of the feedback is hey, we like that you guys are having fun. It's not dry.
Yeah.
Most of the educational sex podcasts are, where it's just basically an NPR show today.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about somnophilia, and it's no, we have fun, and we don't make fun. We have fun with them. So But one of the things you mentioned about people, as long as they don't make people feel uncomfortable, we also have a disclaimer at the end of every episode that one of the major things is you shouldn't feel pressured to be part of a fetish.
Yeah.
So if your sexual partner is like pressuring you to do something you don't want to do, like if your sexual partner is into furrydom, that's fine and good. If you find it revolting, though, you shouldn't feel pressured to do that, and that your partner should not try to use our show to make you do it. Like, it shouldn't be like, see, look,
watch this, listen to this. Yeah.
It's like, no, you shouldn't feel pressured at any point to do something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So that's why we always try to emphasize the SSC, the safe, sane, and consensual, which is actually a BDSM term. We didn't invent that. It's a term the BDSM community invented themselves.
Yeah, it's quite it's actually quite a fine line, isn't it? For what you do, it's actually quite difficult to sort of be. I don't mean this in. It must be quite hard to like sew the line between respectful and funny, because I suspect a lot of funny is on the edge of respectability, isn't it? So sort of carve that path through, because without it being funny, it's probably not going to be something that people are going to want to watch. But it's also important to be sort of informative and accurate and fair.
Yeah, that's why we try to state our disclaimer as much as possible. Where it's like, we're not making fun of you. You shouldn't feel ashamed of what you do.
Yeah,
we're mostly making fun of ourselves for not understanding.
Yeah,
like what you guys do. We've had a few episodes, like the somnophilia episode. That one's a rough one, just because of how close it is to.
Yeah.
It's just a rough episode to like go through. One of the rough episodes, mostly because we couldn't get through. My friend Tommy and I couldn't get through it without like cringing every 10 minutes. Was sexual piercings,
right.
And that was just because the thought we were going through each sexual piercing, and we were like, oh, I can't imagine like someone sticking a needle through.
Yeah, it's not. I've seen a friend who had his cock pierced, and it was and he loved showing it off, and yeah, it was one of those things that just makes you go, oh. Yeah,
that was it seemed like sexual piercing and exhibitionism kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's like when you get pierced down there, you want to show it off.
Yeah, you don't want to keep it secret.
Yeah, and there's a lot of testimony about like how great it feels for your partner.
Yeah.
In particular, and it was just like that would be that's the episode where we started doing the disclaimer, like, don't do something because someone wants you to, because we're like, if your girlfriend is like, man, it would feel great if you got your dick pierced. It'd feel great on my clit.
Yeah.
It's like, don't get your dick pierced because she wants you to. You should get your dick pierced because
you want to.
Yeah. And that was it seemed everyone who like had a piercing, it was like loved it.
Yeah.
And loved showing it off. And so it's just like, this kind of goes hand in hand with exhibitionism, where you're just like, man, yeah, I just got my dick pierced last week. You guys want to see it?
You want to see it?
It's like, no, no, thank you. Not right now. He's like, are you sure?
It's really rad.
My pants are already unbuttoned. It's real easy. Like,
I bet there's a kink there, isn't it? Pierced genitalia display, exhibitionism. I bet there's like a niche of people that love that. It's it's amazing, isn't it? I'm always impressed with the inventive nature of the human sexual desire, and we are an amazing creature. It fascinates me. It's amazing. So, do you think is this a show that can go on and on and on? Are you going to reach a point where like I mean, I suspect there's probably an infinite supply of kinks, but is there going to be a point where you've kind of run it dry, or is this something that's got legs forever?
I mean, when we started, I saw a point like when we started, I was like, oh, this can go on and on forever.
Yeah.
Like 10 episodes in, we were like struggling to come up with ideas, and then we just started brainstorming, and we were like, just like I said, just like pointing at random things or just saying random things, and it was like, oh yeah, there's a fetish for that. So I I don't think there's a limit to human creativity, and I don't think there's a limit to human sexuality. So it can probably go on forever. We do want to like, once we get more experience, start like revisiting some stuff because our very first episode was foot fetish because we wanted to dip our toes in the water. We literally started that because someone made that joke, and we were like, okay, well, we're doing foot fetish because that's a stupid joke now. But it's just like we want to revisit stuff too, but I don't see an end to it. Like one of our upcoming episodes is a dinosaur, which is like, oh,
Wow.
come on, no one's gonna be into dinosaurs, and it's like, oh, nope.
There
There are a lot of people that are into dinosaurs, and like it's just so broad, and then there's like crossing two together, and it's like dinosaurs, and there's like I've seen it before, like dragons and like dragons like fucking cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I could see people who wanted to like have sex with cars, and see people who want to have sex with dragons, and then there are just people that want dragons to have sex with cars. So, but yeah, I could see it going on for a few years. I mean, there's obviously an end at some point because we only have so many objects in the world. But
Yeah.
it like I said, human creativity doesn't seem to have a limit, and neither does sexuality.
I tell you what would be quite an interesting segment for you would be like, how did we get to the sort of the family tree of how you arrived at some fetish? Like, what got you to that? How did that?
Oh yeah,
Where did that come
like
from?
the etymology of like
Yeah.
a fetish.
Yeah, that'd be quite
Yeah,
interesting.
I always try to think about that when I'm like, because we do try to talk about like where these like fetishes could have been developed, like in like growing up, like
Yeah.
at what point were you like developing sexually, or you were at some point developing sexually, and it's like at one point clowns were something innocent, and then you got a hard on one day and there happened to be a clown around, and so we try to like go back and see where it could have started.
Yeah.
And I always try to have that in mind, where it's like, where did A hop to B and then move on to C, and just like there's got to be some point of growth, which it's psychology, so it's the newest branch of health science, and no one has a good hold on it at all. So
No.
most of what we say about like, oh, I'm sure it started here is just us just like bullshitting and being like, it seems like it could start here, but
Yeah.
we really have no idea because the human mind is a complete mystery.
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting sort of take on it. Is there anything that sort of the other people? What are your experiences as a group? Do you have? Is it something that you were all like interested in a sort of, actually this is something we go and do, or is this something that you sort of look on at and wonder? Is it something that you guys go and try and experience these things? It'd be quite interesting if you like found out about it and then were like, right, this week I'm gonna go and try this, and then come back and report on it, or like get in that community. Louis Theroux it. Go and like investigative journalist.
I've thought about doing that, and I was like, if I didn't have a day job, then yeah, like if this was my day job and I had time to commit to it, I'm like, sure, I'd be down to clown.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to like a clown sex party. But I on one hand, it's like I kind of just want to observe because
it's nice to see from the outside, isn't it? It's nice to kind of be an observer for sure. I think that would. Sorry.
We haven't much gotten like into our personal sexual pasts in the show. Like I know some people on the show do have some like BDSM and that kind of thing interests, but I know Tommy's kind of using it as like a therapy kind of thing, just to like talk and be more open about sex stuff. I'm just interested in it because it's just really interesting. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, it is fascinating.
on top, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't say for Dana and Sarah. I think Dana, just like me, is just like essentially an academic and is just interested in it. Sarah's just got like a unique viewpoint. I can't say for sure why she, you know, is doing it every single week, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is. It sounds really interesting. Okay, well, so we didn't really talk about your EDM podcast. What kind of what started that? How did that get started? Is that sort of a personal interest, obviously?
No, for me personally, no.
Right.
I don't really listen to EDM. That
What
was
what is EDM? Sorry, excuse my ignorance.
it's electronic dance music.
Right.
And if I go any further into that, I'm just gonna be making stuff up
Okay.
because all I do is edit. So I listen to each episode and cut it down and sweeten the audio, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That was my friend Noe wanted to start a podcast, and she came to. She's friends with Dana from Kinkcast and she came to Dana to get started, and eventually I got looped in because they needed someone to edit, and we were like, oh, let's just have like a big like umbrella thing. So that's what we started with. Ex Vivo Media is what we call our group of podcasts.
Yeah.
But so I that one I'm really kind of hands off on. That's mostly like Noe's kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a lot of fun. I do enjoy listening to the show, and it is it's like electronic dance music. So anything that you see like at a rave or like Dead Mouse or
Okay.
Skrillex, there's a lot of like sub genres too. Like it's like people who are metalheads will be able to name off like 30 different genres of metal, and it's like, oh, black metal's the real metal, and
Battle
death
metal.
metal's kind of yeah. Like there's hundreds of different subgenres. It's the same thing with EDM music, where it's just like, I didn't realize there was any different. I thought there was just like dubstep and EDM, and I thought those were the same thing, not like house and like trash or something. I'm mostly talking out of my ass. I'm trying to remember. I know house is one of them.
Right.
Dubstep obviously is like the most popular one. I think there's like trash or something. But yeah, it's hundreds of subgenres that all have their own like different things, and it's a lot of like beats per minute kind of thing.
Right.
Sorry, I'm like I said, talking out of my ass about this.
No, it's fine. So I didn't know if it's something that you sometimes it's like a passion, isn't it? And so you kind of but you're more the editing side of it, and it's I don't know anything about it really. It's
It's a fun show though. I enjoyed listening to the show itself.
Yeah.
Obviously they have DJs on every week. Noe creates a game called, can't think of the name of the game right now, but basically she makes up like DJ names and then puts real DJ names versus fake DJ names, and has the people like guess them.
Yeah.
Which one's real, which one's fake, and that kind of thing. And Dana comes up with ridiculous like personas for like to try to sell a DJ on, and it's like, all right, you need to be more like I don't know, like a Buckethead or something. It's like, here, I've created this whole persona with all these different like lighting effects and everything for you, and it's really fun. It's a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Even for someone who is not into EDM music, because I listen to it. I'm like, man, these guys are like funny. I wish they were, I wish I put as much work into like B-movie deathmatch instead of just like, all right, well, here's some more trivia. We're watching some shitty movie this week. Which B-movie deathmatch is a lot of fun, but most of the comedy comes from the movie itself. It doesn't come from the preparing for it. So it's like they put a lot more preparation into their stuff. I basically am like, okay, I'm gonna watch 20 trailers for different movies this week and pick which one I think is the most fascinating.
Yeah. How do you budget your time for content creation? How does that work for you?
Like I said, I work like 50 hours a week
Yeah.
at a day job. So basically, I'll come home and like I try to get like work done before, sitting down to like watching TV or whatever. So basically, I'll get off work and immediately like be like, okay, well, I need to edit or whatever. So I'll, put in like an hour or two to edit whatever episode is supposed to be coming out that week, like because I edit 3 podcasts, so it's, got to listen through to each one, make sure the audio is all correct, and and then I probably do like 10 hours a week. I don't really like try to like budget time. It just takes away time from me.
Yeah. Time management is hard for things like this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly like, okay, well, I've done that. Now, do I have any time to like, watch TV or anything?
Yeah.
Because especially since I'm on 2 of them, so I have to actually do research for Kinkcast, and B Movie Deathmatch takes a long time to record.
Yeah.
Because it's at least like 30 or 45 minutes for the first half. Then we have to watch the whole movie, and then we have 30 or 45 minutes for the second half. So it can be like a 5 or 6 hour recording session sometimes.
Do you edit that down? Obviously, it's just not like a 6 hour.
Oh no, we don't actually record the movie, but I
Right.
mean, like
The
that's how much time
Yeah.
gets taken away. Yeah, it's like we record for 45 minutes,
then
talk
watch
about
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is like it can be like a 6 hour block of time sometimes,
Yeah, that's a lot.
especially when we've done double features, which are like every single time we do a double feature, the second half is always like, what are we doing to ourselves?
Why?
Why did we watch another horrible movie today? Like, who thought it was a good idea to do this again?
Oh yeah, it was me. Oh no.
Yeah, no. Can't blame anyone else. This is all my choice. I decided to watch the Nickelodeon kids movie from 2003, Nim's Island, at 1 o'clock in the morning after I've already recorded and drank. So it gets kind of crazy on those days.
Yeah. So with regards to like the community, the people that sort of follow what you do, is there anything you do that cultivates that community? And is there any like stuff that you advice or like how to kind of do that? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
We always try to, at least for Kinkcast, we want people to like send in like, testimonial and that kind of thing. Like, tell us like when we talk about like, Sonic or whatever. It's like, tell us what we got wrong about this kink. Like, if you are into this, like, tell us like, hey, you guys are completely wrong about this, or like whatever. So we openly invite like a conversation. We want to hear from people who are into that kind of thing, and just like tell us, hey, you did this right, or you guys are fucking idiots. Why are you even talking about this? I'm never gonna listen to you again. Like, we want to hear from the community, so we always ask for like people like, hey, tweet us, send us an email, send us a Facebook message. Like, we always like try to respond promptly to everything. Have an open dialogue about kind of things. For B Movie Deathmatch, it's mostly people arguing with us about the quality of the movie, especially when we do a movie that we hate, but for some reason people love. Like, we did Explorers like months ago, which is a horrible movie, but it came out in the 80s, and people have that like nostalgic boner for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, no, I used to love Explorers. And we're like, you should try watching it now, because it is a terrible movie. And so there's a lot of like arguing with PvP Deathmatch, where it's us like talking with people. And there's also a lot of agreement, because we do watch some like cult classic movies that we're like, how did we never hear of Night of the Demon 2, which is one of the best movies we've ever watched. It is an insanely good like 1980s like B movie.
Yeah.
It is so fun. There's a whole like suiting up like Rambo sequence with a nun who's like she opens up like a like cabinet, or like she pulls out like a drawer that is just perfectly like aligned, like yardsticks, and she like carefully selects the perfect one to like go into battle with the demon with, because nuns hit people with yardsticks. So it is so much fun. But yeah, that one is mostly like us like talking about the quality of the movie with people who are fans of the movies.
Yeah.
Which can kind of be problematic when we pick, or not problematic, but it can be an issue when we pick movies that no one's ever seen. And
Have you seen? I've got a movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. Have you ever seen Robot Jocks?
Robot Jocks? No, that's actually on my list.
Oh my god! If you watch Robot Jocks and you want someone to come in and wax lyrical about Robot Jocks, hit me up. That movie, that movie is something else. And there's a second one as well. There's two of them. So
Really?
The second one's even harder to find.
Because that one, didn't that movie like bankrupt the company that did that?
I can imagine it might have done. Yeah, it was it was a incredibly ambitious, terrible film. Think like Power. You know, like when the Power Rangers get inside their mechs. It's the premise behind it is countries all build a robot and they settle their disputes on a battlefield with these robots, and they've got like different, it's like Robot Wars with people inside that control them. It's so funny. It's so bad. It's like probably the worst movie. It makes me so happy thinking about it. It's it's almost unwatchable.
That one was brought to my attention because that's if I'm remembering correctly, that's the movie studio that did Ghoulies and Reanimator and From Beyond.
Right. Okay.
And they basically hit it big with Ghoulies, where it was like a super low budget movie that everyone went and saw, and they were just trying to remake Ghoulies the whole time. And I'm pretty sure that because that one came on to my radar because I've been wanting to do From Beyond for a while because it looks insane. And I was reading about it and it's like, oh, and then their last movie ever was Robot Jocks, where they were like, okay, well, let's try to pour a lot of money into it and see if we can get a return this time. And none of their movies had a big return except for Ghoulies, which apparently all of their other movies are funded from Ghoulies.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about the studio. It's Pacific Rim. It's the Pacific Rim stole the idea from Robot Jocks. It's basically that. It's something else. It's so badly acted. It's so hammy, and just everything about it is just terrible and brilliant. I reckon that's.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I reckon that B movie podcast that's got to be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it is. It can kind of get exhausting. Like I said, when we do double features, it's like, what are we putting ourselves through? Especially when we're like really anticipating a movie, and then it turns out it's like, this trailer for this movie looked like the best thing on the planet, which we have a lot of issues with, of like movies that were made to make a trailer to sell the movie. Where it's like, this movie looks amazing, and then you watch the movie and you're like, oh my god, this is the most boring thing in the world. Everything interesting was shown in the trailer, and then there's nothing else to the movie. There are some though that are just insane. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of the movie Tank Girl.
I have heard of it. Yeah, I've not seen it.
That movie is insane. It cost them. That movie, we watched the trailer and we were like, this movie, this can't be like a fun, interesting movie. The trailer looks weird, but there's no way. It's one of those movies that, they put everything in the trailer. We watched it and we were like, there's no way we could have predicted anything that was happening in this movie. This movie is crazier than anyone could have ever thought. There's a woman having sex with a anthropomorphized kangaroo. It is the most insane movie I've ever seen. And it was like, and this got a huge budget and a huge theatrical release.
Wow.
It had made no sense to me why that movie was like, someone was like, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's put $50 million into this movie and try to make it the next big thing.
I feel like there was a time when films were cheap to make, and studios were like hoping for these like just crazy films that just tickled enough people that they became a bit of a cult hit. And nowadays we don't seem to have that, and we seem to have got into this. You need these like Hollywood blockbusters or cheap indie films, and gone are the days where we just get these insane things, especially from the 80s. It's just ridiculous amounts of. Like, do you ever see The Cube?
Oh yeah, Cube.
Yeah,
Cube is great. The
Cube,
first one's great.
Yeah, there's Cube, Hypercube, and then there's also Cube Zero as well. They're pretty crazy. I love those.
I'm just disappointed they never went with Cube Cubed, but
yeah, Cube. That would be great. That could be the fourth one. Yeah, there were some great films that just were nuts. I'm just looking at one called Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Beyond the Black Rainbow. Who did that? Was that a John Carpenter movie?
It is directed by Panos Cosmatos. It's from Canada. And it had a budget of $1.1 million US. It's literally the most insane film I've ever watched, and it was so hard to watch it. It like just broke me watching it, and I watched every minute of that piece of shit, and I don't know why I sat through it. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I don't know why, but I'm gonna make my way through it. And man, that film disappointed me big time.
Yeah, because that one is also on my list. I've got a list of like 100 different movies where I'm just like, man, that trailer looks insane.
Yeah.
And there's no way we're gonna get to them all. But that one was on there. I couldn't remember anything about it. But and it sounds like just the title of it sounds like a John Carpenter movie where it's just like, all right, well, it's a fucking weird title like Escape from L.A. or like Starman or that kind of thing. But
it's kind of quite like a neon futuristic film in that, and it's all shot in this like really weird like what's it called when you get like the flare like that on a camera when you get like the flare.
The lens flare.
Yeah, it's sort of
lens flare.
It's like kind of lens flare-y. It's like just this surreal film, and you don't really know what's going on. And this guy has got like he at some point takes off his eyebrows and takes off his like hair, and he's just this like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, like a shaved completely bald man. He just this podcast is not the place to talk about it, but it's like it is the weirdest film. And if watching weird films is what you like, this is gonna, those two films are gonna, they're gonna be great fun for you. You're gonna really enjoy them.
Oh yeah. there have been some movies that we've sat and we're just like, the whole room is just quiet the whole time, just like, what's happening? Okay, I guess this is happening now, but that. Okay, well, I never thought that would have gone that way, but
yeah.
Like we watched Phantasm, because none of us had seen it, but Phantasm is like a huge cult like horror movie that was heavily influential for the horror genre.
Yeah.
It was one of the first few films we watched. We watched it as the second part of a double feature for Halloween last year, and there was a lot like, that was the episode we introduced the multiplier, which is, like I was saying, something we don't think is going to happen, but we want to happen.
Yeah.
There's also the episode where we almost won our first multiplier, because I had like predicted, the whole trailer makes it look like it's like a kind of like a ghost story kind of thing, and I had predicted that the bad guy was an alien from space that was coming down and experimenting on humans.
Yeah.
And I was off by one word.
Oh.
And yeah, and that he was not experimenting on humans; he was using them as slave labor.
Nice.
And I was like, but like at the end of the movie, we were all just like sitting on the edge of our seat, like, what is happening in this movie? Like these little like Jawa people are going around like abducting people and like biting people. And then there's a giant tall person that's just staring at people as they walk by. There's silver balls flying everywhere with spikes on them, killing people. There's like intradimensional portals. And it was just like, this is the most insane movie that we've ever seen, especially based on the trailer that we watched, which is like, this is supposed to be like, from what we saw, like a ghost story.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's about a guy from space that is abducting people. And it was such a strange movie. Really good. Like one of the movies that I recommend from our list.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a B movie good. It was just like a good movie.
Yeah.
Very weird movie, but like good. Because we also do some movies that are just like, oh, this is just a straight good movie. Like there's nothing weird about it. It's just really good movie.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a boring episode because we don't have much interesting to talk about besides this was a fascinating movie that everyone should see.
That's cool. Is there somewhere that you hope these podcasts will be, or hope you will be in? Like, if you could be in your dream position in 5 years, where would that be? What would you be doing? Same thing, but better.
Yes, higher quality. Obviously, I'm always trying to like work on the quality of the shows. We actually had a issue. We just switched to new mics, and they're a little too sensitive. And so now I'm like, all right, every time we record, don't touch anything. Like, it's gonna pick you up, okay? Just like back off a little bit. Our old mics, weren't that great, so weren't picking up as much, and I would have to like play around with the audio more afterwards. Now I have to play around with the audio more to, bust it out.
Down.
Like,
yeah.
So I'm always like wanting like more professional sounding stuff. Our mics now are pretty decent quality stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would eventually. The dream is that this is like, I don't have to have a day job.
Yeah.
But podcasting is a large field.
Yes.
And
yeah, right.
it is hard to get any attention in that.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I do. Right now, it's a hobby. Like anybody would like their hobby to be a job, but it's just it's a lot of fun. I like editing, so I have fun editing the audio and listening back to the stupid jokes that I usually make, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that, but for some reason I crack myself up, and I guess some people find it funny because we've got people listening, but it's right now it's just something that we do for fun, and if it becomes something bigger, then so be it.
Yeah,
that would be the dream, but.
Yeah. It's the production quality is such an expensive bar to get to, isn't it? I mean, you can get started for quite a little amount of money, and then just small increments in professional quality are very expensive.
Like you can get like if you rate it on like a scale of like 1 to 100.
Yeah,
you can get to like 75 pretty cheaply.
Yeah,
getting from the amount of money that you put into like getting to like 75 is like $100 or whatever.
Yeah.
Getting from 75 to 80 will be like $200.
Yeah.
And then getting from 80 to 100 will be like you're gonna be spending like a few $1,000s to get like to the best quality. It's like a diminishing returns. Once you start getting up there, that's when it starts getting more and more and more and more and more, and you're just like. Oh, I just for 1 point of quality more, I have to drop $400. So it's always that's always an issue with that.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that is there any software or any stuff that you use that you think might be useful to let people know about? Or anything?
I mean, if you're editing audio, you should just never use that free one?
Audacity?
Audacity is the worst program I've ever edited on in my entire life. Everything that should just be like a simple click is like a 10-step process.
Right.
It's like, oh, I just want to like make these two like audio tracks like groups together.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, you have to go through and create all of these different things. I'm like, no,
I just want click.
Yeah. And so like Adobe's great, and it is, especially with the payment plan kind of thing they've got going on now, where you pay a subscription for like $20 or whatever to get one of their products. Like that's super affordable. Like, it's not like it used to be where you had to drop like $500, which I'm sure a lot of people liked better because they're not tied into like a monthly subscription. But it's like $20, you get like Audition, or $20 and you get like Premiere if you're gonna do like YouTube or video editing.
Yeah.
And it like I started on I can't even remember the name of it. We just said it, that the free one. I started editing on
Audacity.
Audacity, yeah. started editing on Audacity, and when I just switched over to Audition, it was like, oh, I just freed up like 2 hours of time.
Yeah.
Like everything is so much easier. All like the shortcuts are so much. It definitely invests. If you want to invest any money, I would say start there. Like you can get a cheap mic that is acceptable for quality wise. That most people who listen to podcasts really don't care that much about quality, as long as it's not like, as long as the errors are not in your face constantly. If it's not always being obtrusive, most people will like ignore like, like a air conditioning or a fan or something in the background.
Yep.
The like quality of life improvement that spending $20 for like Audacity or Premiere is like so ridiculously great. You will free up hours and hours of your time just paying a little bit more to get something quality. I don't use Apple products, so I'm not sure. I'm sure GarageBand is great, but from what I have used of GarageBand, I've been frustrated by it. So I'm not sure.
It's hard to go as a Windows user to go to use Mac, isn't it? Because it's all one click and there's no right button, which gets rid of your context menu and just puts you in a different. It's a different thing entirely, isn't it? I use Cubase to do audio, and if I try and use like Logic or anything, I can't grasp for some reason. I can't grasp one click. It just does my head in. It's just a nightmare. It just drives me mad.
And you can get like right-clicking mice with like Apple products, but there's still like they sometimes make things like their old slogan was "It just works."
Yeah.
They say sometimes they make things too user-friendly, where it's like, okay, well, this is GarageBand. All you need to do is hit record and it starts recording. It's like, okay, well, I need to do more than that. I need to, get more into the settings, and getting more into the settings is actually more difficult than just having the settings out there and having to learn it from the start. Like with Audition, it is a little more difficult, but you take like 20 minutes to do like one tutorial and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. This is pretty straightforward. It looks more difficult because they've got options everywhere, but it's a little bit easier.
I think the bar to learning sometimes for people who don't, I can imagine like my gran, she sends emails, but like she would like something. I suppose there are a group of people that just that bar to entry is too high, isn't it? And the idea of watching a tutorial to some people is like hell, isn't it? They want that kind of, just simple, just easy, which for anyone who wants to go beyond, like you say, it's just frustrating. Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to? Is there any people or creatives or unknown people that you would like to sort of shine a light on? Not if you don't want to.
I mean, I'm sure there are.
I'll have a think about it. If there's any that you want to like at the end, you can.
As soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna come up with like 10 people that I'm like, oh man, I should have told you guys about that, but
it's always the way, isn't it? Sorry, I should have asked you at the start to think about it.
Yeah. Well, if you had asked me about the start, that's all I would have been thinking about. You'd have been like, so Kinkcast, Bill did great music, yeah. God, no, no, I do have some friends that they have no idea that I'm going to be plugging this because I haven't talked to them since like high school. But I did see that they started making a podcast about the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, awesome!
Which I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I am a fan of their rival team, the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
And but they I do live in the DFW area, and some of my friends from high school started a podcast about the Dallas Cowboys, and I really liked their most recent episode because the Cowboys, if you're not a football fan, which I don't assume you would be,
no,
they lost big time this last weekend, so I had a lot of fun listening to that last episode. They don't know I listened to the show, and they have no idea that I would be plugging their stuff, but it is Boys Will Be Boys. I don't think they're on I don't think they're on like iTunes or anything yet. I think they're just on SoundCloud. But yeah, look them up on SoundCloud. And I always, want to support other people who are trying to start like podcasts and that kind of thing, because it's what I'm doing. So
yeah. That's cool. And is there anything of yours that you would like to promote? Obviously, all the things that you've just been talking about, I suspect.
Oh yeah, B-Movie Deathmatch is our main one. We're taking a hiatus from recording, but that doesn't mean we're stopping releasing episodes, because we banked 40 episodes before we started releasing them. So we're taking a step back from recording just because we kind of got burnt out. So we're gonna start recording again like in the next month, but we've still got plenty of episodes coming out.
Cool.
This week is can't remember this week's episode. Oh, it already came out. So, but Kinkcast obviously is a really fun one. That one's probably, I enjoy that one a little bit more. It's a little more free form. We do try to stick to a topic in that one. It's that's the one I like the best, probably.
Cool.
So Kinkcast, Festicast, obviously, my friend Noe's podcast is a lot of fun. But yeah, they're all fun.
Excellent.
We just released Exhibitionism. No, that was last week. Yeah, we released Exhibitionism on Kinkcast, which was unfortunate because we released that about 2 days before the Louis C.K. stuff started coming out. And I was like, well, this is an unfortunate time for us to release this, but we are already out. So
maybe it's the best time. Maybe people are like, I want to know some more information about this and why people do it. And now I have a celebrity to like wonder why that person does it. And yeah, it makes it all.
It was extremely topical.
Yeah, very topical. Yeah. Okay, Chris. Well, we've pretty much reached our time limit. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll include all your links and stuff on the show, and we'll no doubt catch up again sometime.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, most welcome.
Yeah, if we do Robot Jocks, I'll try to get in contact with you and get some testimonial about it. We can have an argument in the second half about how much we hated the movie. And
absolutely.
It's the best movie ever.
Oh, I know. It is. Don't get me wrong. It's a terrible film, but also something about it. I mean, I watched it as a child, and it just, oh man, it just excites me thinking about it now. Yeah, it's great. You'll enjoy it, or you'll hate it. One of the two. It is.
I'll probably enjoy it and hate it.
Yeah, that's
a lot of those movies.
Yeah, it is exactly that. Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris. Well, we'll catch up again in the future. Many thanks. We'll see you again on the Noise Photo Podcast. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.